In this episode of Podcast Tactics, you will learn how to take your podcast to the next level. You'll get tons of podcasting tips, from networking to putting systems in place to sponsorship strategies. Today's guest covers all of this and more. If you want to keep learning how to podcast from other podcasters, join the mailing list at podcasttactics.com. Now, let's get into it. Joining me at the mic is travel writer and veteran podcaster Lee Huffman in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Lee. Thanks for joining me.
It's awesome to be here, and I can't wait to talk about everything that's been going on in my life.
Well, I can't wait to pick your brain because, as I was saying before we rolled our audio, you have created a life that, to me, is extremely admirable, and I want to learn everything possible from you that I can in the next 20 some odd minutes. So let's get rolling here. Tell us, what's the name of your podcast and what's it all about?
Yeah, so my podcast is called We Travel There. And so what I do is I interview people from all over the world to find out the best things to do in their city from a local's point of view. So I've been traveling like pretty much nonstop with miles and points and everything for more than a decade. And I'm like that annoying person that sits next to you on the bus or at the bar or whatever, start chatting up the locals and trying to ask them what to do. And a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, go to the Eiffel Tower. I'm like, oh, that's great. Everybody knows to go to the Eiffel Tower or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I want to know what the locals want to do. Where do they go? What places do they eat? Or if we're going to go to those popular things, how do I save money on going to there? Or how can I cut the line and not spend 3 hours waiting to go inside to see the Mona Lisa, right? And so it's a fun conversation. It's basically the listeners it's like a kind of a voyeuristic thing. They just listen in that conversation, and hopefully they're inspired to visit a lot of cities that they may not otherwise have thought about, because we don't just cover the big cities. We cover a lot of small cities as well. And maybe they're not cities that you would say, oh, okay, I'm going to fly all the way to Japan to go visit Kamakura. But while I'm there in Tokyo, I'm going to take a day or two to travel an hour south and go visit down there and enjoy the beaches and everything else.
That is really cool. So let's take a few steps back here and talk about the origins of your podcast. Your background, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I spent almost 20 years in banking on both on the sales side as well as on the corporate management side. And I launched my blog called Bald Thoughts about travel, rewards, and miles and points and trip reports back in December 2012. It's kind of like a fun thing to do. Got me away from Excel and PowerPoint, all the stuff I would spend 10 plus hours a day doing. And so it kind of allowed my creative side to really foster there. And when it came time for me to leave my job, we left from California and moved to Nashville. And I decided, you know what, by moving to a lower cost area, I can pursue my business to see if I can really make writing a real thing where I can generate a decent income to help provide for our family and get us that much closer to financial independence. And one of the things I wanted to do that I didn't have time for before, because I commuted 3 hours a day. I spent 10 to 12 hours a day working, plus having 2 young children and a wife and everything. It doesn't leave a lot of time for extracurricular things like a podcast. And so once we moved here, I said, okay, yeah, I'm going to really make things happen here with getting the podcast going. And it's been a fun thing, like learning about all these cities, meeting so many amazing people. And even my bucket list has grown tremendously after learning about all these awesome cities all over the world.
I do want to get into some episodes that I listen to, but before we do that, I kind of want to keep it a little high level at this point. Sure. In terms of when you started your podcast, what were some of the challenges that you ran into, and how did you break through those challenges?
Well, I think it's like anything, whether it's blogging or podcasting or anything else that you're doing in life. Like, at least me, I put things up on a high pedestal where it's like, wow, they're doing this and they must be really amazing at it. Or that's like not a skill that I have. There's no way I can do that. And it's like one of those things, you just got to jump into the deep end and just immerse yourself in it and just do it. Like I said, I came up with the idea. I refined it quite a lot between taking a lot of different free courses that are available online, like Steve Chow, my wife quit her job.com, Pat Flynn, Pete from Do You Even Blog, even my editor, Steve Stewart. He's an awesome editor. I took his course as well. So I took all these different courses, and me being frugal, I was like, oh, okay, I'm definitely going to edit my own episodes. I'm not going to spend all that money. And then I'm like, wait a minute, these guys do this all day, every day, and they make it look so easy. And I'm going to spend 5 or 6 hours editing like a half an hour episode. That is not definitely a good use of my time. I'm better off paying somebody and then taking that time and writing a few more articles for other clients. And I make way more money.
Can you talk a little bit about your, I'm going to call it a writing career for lack of a better term. You went from finance to travel writing. Bridge that gap for me, please.
I started in December 2012. So it was really like just a hobby over all these years. Just I'd write a few articles here and there. And sometimes I would go months because it was budget season or something else was really going on at work. And I just didn't have the time or the energy to do it. And then as I was coming time to leaving my job, I was like, okay, I really need to get more serious about this. I reached out to different friends who were freelance writers. I met a bunch of them through a conference called FinCon. So it's a personal finance community. And just said, hey, what's an average day like as a freelance writer? And how do you find clients? And how do you build them? And all these different things. And like, how much do you charge? I have no idea what any of those parameters were. And so they helped me tremendously. Miranda Marquardt, Jackie Lamb. Let's see, there's just so many others that helped me out and kind of pushed me in the right direction. And also, referred a few of my first clients, and so I had a little bit of a head start that way because I learned this thing from this guy named Wing Lam, who owns Wahoo's Fish Tacos over in California. And I was at a under 40s like professional conference, and he said one of the things you need to do in life is you plant those seeds far in advance of ever needing to harvest those crops, right? And so I was building these relationships and just being friends with these people at the conference. I wasn't asking for anything for them. And so we were friends for years and years. And to the point where when I did need something, as far as getting that advice, getting the referrals to clients and everything, people had no problem saying, hey, I know Lee, I vouch for him. He's an awesome guy. He knows what he's talking about. And so it was an easy referral versus saying, hey, I know I just met you 5 minutes ago. Would you mind referring me to, X, Y, and Z client? And so it's one of those things you always have to be building for your future, and not just a week from now, but a month, a year, even 5 years or more down the road. You got to be building those relationships and kind of planting those seeds.
That's really cool. That's really great advice. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do now with your podcast that you wish you did when you started your show?
Well, I will say this. When I first started, I was very motivated, and I probably spent like 2 or 3 hours on the show notes. And now I've got to the point where I have kind of a template. I have a VA that populates the majority of that template. And so that way, for me, the show notes, I just pick the pictures, insert the pictures, and maybe type out 2 or 3 paragraphs and look at everything else and just make sure that everything else flows. And so by outsourcing that freed up a lot of my time. It's well worth the little bit of money that I'm paying a VA. And again, because I've kind of systematized it, it makes it so much easier. Even before I first started, I was really focused on creating systems where I use Calendly. So that way it's not like those back and forth emails or texts or phone calls. Hey, when are you available? Are you available at this time? No. What about this time? And it's like, nobody wants to deal with all that, right? So I use Calendly, and it makes things so much easier to be able to schedule. Like it integrates with my Google Calendar, so I can block off time or dates. Like say my daughter's birthday's coming up, I don't want to have an appointment on that day, so I block it off. Same thing. Now I've got to the point because I have a bunch of episodes recorded. If there's 2 interviews that I'm going to record in a week, I actually block off the rest of that week because I want to save time for family and writing articles for clients and things of that nature. Because sometimes if you don't watch out, you're going to have 5 or 6 interviews in a week, and you're like, oh my God, all my free time is now evaporated. So I do that. The other thing that what I do is, because it's the interviews that I do are very much focused on creating a good experience for the listeners for when they're traveling to that city. I actually put a couple hurdles in place for guests. And if they don't jump over those hurdles, I know they're not going to put forth the effort as far as helping me promote the episodes. I know they're probably not going to be a very good guest when they're doing the interview. And I want them to be like kind of into it, right? Like I want to have a little bit of ownership of their episode. So the first thing I do is I have a Google form on my website, and you have to fill out the Google form and kind of populate your social media handles and your Skype address and your phone number and stuff like that. That way it makes it easy. So that way I know how to easily contact them on all those different channels, as well as making sure that I can put those links into the show notes and help them promote their social media channels, right? And then once they do that, then I send them another email and says, here's the link for questions I want you to answer for me to help create the show notes, as well as for me to kind of guide the conversation. And then from there, they also can schedule the interview. And so by doing that, if people don't take those little steps, I know they're not going to be very good. There's one person that I had a scheduled interview with him, and then he flaked on me. And then he tried to schedule another interview. And when he filled out the form, he just basically put a link to his website. All the information you want is right there. And I looked at it, like he basically wanted me to do all the homework. I'm like, wait a minute, dude, I'm helping you out, promoting you and your business on my podcast, and you're making me do all the work. Like if it's going to be like a 90-10 relationship in this, that's just not going to work. That's not going to be good for me. And I'm going to feel bad when I'm doing the interview. I'm like, oh, this guy's such a jerk, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
I want it to be like a happy conversation, like, oh, I'm really thankful that he put in this effort and he's really helping me out with the show notes, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to have a great conversation. And that's really what I want. And so like I said, it basically helps kind of weed out the guests that aren't going to be the really awesome ones that you're going to be proud to share that episode.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And that's the perfect segue into talking about a few of your episodes. I listened to, I think, 2 or 3 actually, because
oh, nice,
they're great. That's
you.
My nutshell of your show. I mean, absolutely tight end to end from season 1, episode 1 to what I listened to most recently. You are amazingly consistent, and I believe that I would imagine you attribute that to the systems you put in place. Did you have your systems in place from the beginning, and how much have they changed since then?
Yeah, like I said, some of them were there from the beginning, like using Calendly and you using those Google Forms. I've changed it up a little bit here and there, but for the most part, those systems have been in place throughout. And I will say this, my very first guest that I actually interviewed was Joe from Stacking Benjamins, an extremely popular podcast. I mean, they have over 1,000 episodes or something like that. He's been on for years and years and years. And I figured, you know what? He's been such a pro with his podcast, and I've been on his show a couple of times. I'm like, if I mess it up and I just totally fumble, I figure he can help save me. right? So, if you're kind of scared and you're looking to like launch your podcast, get somebody who's done it before, and somebody who's either has their own show or who's guested on a lot of other shows. And because of their experience, they'll be a good help for you to kind of help flow that conversation. I mean, if both of you, it's your first time being on a podcast, it may be a little bit more challenging. There may be a little more like fear and, a little bit of uncomfortable pauses or whatever. So having somebody like that, like, really helped me out. And so I give big thanks to Joe for that. And so, really, it's one of those things at the beginning. Like I have a set of questions I kind of go through, right? And at the very beginning, I was much more rigid with timing, and I have to ask all these different questions and everything like that. Whereas now it's more just like a flowing conversation. And if I try to talk about the attractions in the city, as I try to talk about different places, everything else, and every guest is going to be a little bit different, right? Some of them are much more foodie oriented. Some of them are much more like history or attractions or whatever oriented. And so sometimes there's only a couple minutes left to be able to talk about one or the other. And just, you have to understand it's okay. And sometimes guests are absolutely amazing. They provide all these different notes and everything, and like sometimes 2 or 3 pages worth of notes. And I just know I'm never going to get through it all, but that's what the show notes are for, right? Like I can take some of those suggestions that they provided that we didn't get a chance to talk about and put them in the show notes. And basically it creates an avenue for a reason for people to come to your website, other than just being a rehash of what you just talked about.
Well, there were several things that I was really inspired by your podcast. I mean, obviously the travel and the food is one thing, right? But just from a podcaster's perspective, the structure really appealed to me. Specifically, your recap at the end of the episode, really cool. Like just tighten, button things up. You gave a coming up next, which is enticing listeners to, subscribe, listen to more. And you had a very, very clear and concise call to action, which, all of that, just those three things right there at the end of an episode, I'm ripping off. I'm like modeling, I'm going to try to model that in some way. I'm curious, how, did you stumble on that? Did you learn that from somewhere? How did you end up structuring it your shows like that from the beginning? I mean, from the beginning you did this.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes I've been a big podcast listener for years and years, right? And so I think you're always just kind of, at least my mind anyways, I'm always kind of picking what everybody's doing and saying, okay, do I like this? Do I not? And somebody told me at the very beginning, they said, even if you don't have actual sponsors, even if you don't have actual commercials, put something in there anyways, because if you don't, and you go, 10, 20, 30, whatever episodes, and then all of a sudden you insert ads, the listeners will be like, what is going on here? Where did this come from? But if you started from the very beginning with ads, they're like, oh, okay, that's just part of the show. That's just normal. That's just what it is.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I did notice that, from episode 1, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. He's throwing a sponsor in here. How did you approach that?
Well, just from being a blogger all these years, and I do a lot of affiliate marketing on the blogging side. So I know that, okay, I can create, short URLs, to make it so it's easy for people to say, instead of saying, oh, okay, go to www. blah, 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 and like this long URL, you just say, oh, wetravelthere.com/bluffworks or acorns or whatever. And it's an easy, and then it just redirects to whatever that page is or whatever that affiliate link is. And so, again, because I was on the affiliate marketing side, I knew, okay, here are some things that I use in my normal blog that I can incorporate into the travel, the podcast side. And so I just said, okay, well, I'm going to create them from either Share a Sale or Commission Junction, or some of the other affiliate networks that are out there. And I just look for different types of affiliate programs that are relevant to what we're doing. And so one thing I also do is, because again, I do a lot on the blog side, is that I pitch them an opportunity to promote on the podcast as well. So I'll offer them packages saying, okay, if you want a sponsored post, it's X dollars. If you want sponsored posts and social media shares, X plus Y. And then, oh, by the way, there's an opportunity for you also to promote on evergreen travel podcast episodes. And that's an opportunity as well. So I throw out these different options for them. Whereas again, I'm almost at 150 episodes and I've got a little bit over 80,000 downloads total. So it's doing well in that regard, but it's not like I'm getting hundreds of thousands of downloads for every episode. But the numbers are continuing to grow. And because I've designed it purposely to be evergreen, then it has that long-term value. Even if I'm not getting a lot of downloads today necessarily, down the road, there could be significantly more downloads. And so that's something that's a great opportunity for when you are speaking to sponsors, as well as creating those affiliate network links as a sort of quote unquote sponsor of your episode that way.
Something else that I noticed too, that I'm just remembering as you were talking, are your reviews on Apple Podcasts. They are excellent reviews. I mean, congratulations on that. That it's well deserved as far as I'm concerned. And I was impressed by that as well. And I'm sure that helps with engaging with sponsors as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I actually just created a pitch deck. I'm going to go out there and try to be a little bit more proactive in going out and getting sponsors, and definitely taking screenshots of those reviews, incorporating that into the pitch deck definitely helps. What I do, because I have Libsyn as my hosting. And so what I do is I use a metric that I don't know if I'm just making stuff up, pulling things out of the air, but my metric that I use is I don't look at the number of downloads for each episode. I look at the number of downloads per episode that's released. And so I track it every month. And so I created a Google Doc and basically just shows, okay, each month, how many downloads did I get for that month? And then how many episodes did I release for that month? And I just created a chart. And I think that's like probably the nerd finance guy in me, right? You're doing that. but it's something that I like to track that progress. And I don't necessarily look month to month, but I just look at the overall trend. And as long as that trend is going up, and obviously we're recording that right now in March of 2021. And last year, 2020 was a horrible year for travel. Nobody's really traveling during the middle of a pandemic, and my numbers definitely suffered during that. But I also noticed that as people started wanting to get out more often and had that cabin fever and everything else, you definitely notice there are more spikes in the number of downloads. And so it's been interesting to kind of watch that dynamic as far as the number of downloads versus what's going on in the world outside, And so it's been interesting. I will say this, that by tracking the numbers the way I have, I also look at, kind of peek at, okay, well, how many downloads did this one episode get, the one I just released, and kind of in total versus what the overall downloads are. And so right now I'm getting probably 1,000 to 1,500 downloads for every episode I release. And maybe about half to a third of those are from the current episode, and people are downloading a lot of the back catalog. And so it's really kind of interesting to see how all that works. And it's good to know that people are downloading the past episodes too. And they're finding value in what they listen to, and they're like, oh, this is cool. I want to learn more.
Let's talk about your guests. I mean, you seem to have some, what I'm going to call high profile guests. How are you finding them? How are you engaging with them? How are you inviting them on? And how do you prepare for your show? I mean, how do you prepare for those interviews?
Well, luckily by having them fill out the form, it takes a lot of the preparation work out there. But yeah, I mean, I've been lucky with some of the guests. Some of them are just people I've met through, like, say, FinCon or through other travel blogging groups I participate in. And I purposely have not just focused on travel people, even though it is a travel podcast. It could be anybody, literally, that lives in a city can be on my show. One of the examples I like to quote is this guy from Cairns, Australia. He's a podiatrist. So, he's a foot doctor, and he's on the show talking about Cairns, Australia. And so by not requiring it just to be travel people, one, I get exposed to a lot of different audiences that I wouldn't normally get exposed to. Like when they're sharing it across their networks on social media or their friends or family or whoever, it's not just travel people that are learning about the episodes. And so that's kind of by design. The profile people, like some of them, I just know from the networks. I do go into Facebook groups every so often and say, hey, I'm looking for guests. Anybody want to represent their city? And I put a little pitch in there, and I've got a lot of people that way. One of the ones that actually worked out the best for me was one of the Philadelphia episodes. Irene Levy Baker, she came on the show and we talked, and it was a great episode. She knew so much. She used to work for the Visitors Bureau in Philadelphia. So obviously very knowledgeable and intelligent on everything that's going on in the city. And then I knew she had a couple books, and maybe I didn't research it enough. I thought they were just her books. I'm like, wow, those are really catchy titles. Like Unique Eats Philly and 100 Things to Do Before You Die in Philly, 100 Things to Do in Philadelphia Before You Die. I'm like, wow, those are pretty catchy. It turns out that's actually a series of books from cities all over the US. And so she asked me, so, hey, would you mind if I shared your episode and your call for guests in the authors group that I'm in? I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be fantastic. And so I had a couple other authors from Reedy Press that had their different books from those series, as well as other ones like Secret Blank Whatever City. And so I started reaching out to the publisher and said, hey, I've had a number of your authors on my show, and I want to just kind of create a little relationship with you and share some of those episodes in case they did not share the episodes with you. And what I like to do is have more of your authors on my show to help them promote their book. One, it gives me a much more professional guest. Two, it helps you with potential book sales, and it helps the guest, the author, go out there and promote their book a little bit more. And so it's a win-win for everybody. And so that's been a phenomenal relationship. I've done the same thing with Moon Travel Guides. Got a couple of their authors on, one from Santiago, Chile, and then the other one just recently, it's coming out soon for Birmingham, Alabama. And so she was talking about like the civil rights trail that's down there. And so really fascinating information to learn. And so creating those relationships with those companies, it's almost like a natural source for future guests. And so that's been phenomenal. I think also just at some point I reached a tipping point where my podcast has been around for a while. I've actually started having PR agencies reach out to me. And one of them, and I was kind of flabbergasted. I forget his name off the top of my head right now, but he's the CEO for El Cid Resorts down in Mazatlan. And so through the PR agency, they reached out and he was a guest, and really phenomenal being able to talk to somebody who's a CEO that owns multiple hotels with their family, so, and hopefully once we start traveling again, I'll be able to reach out to him. Hey buddy, remember me? I want to come down to Mazatlan and hang out on the beach, so, but I mean, that's one of the things that I love about having the podcast around all these different cities is that pretty much now wherever I travel, I'm going to be able to have somebody that lives in those cities or that has suggestions for me and everything. And the last thing that I've been doing recently is that I've been reaching more out to the convention and visitors bureaus or of different cities and saying, hey, I don't want, like, it's kind of an awkward conversation because I'm like, I don't want you on my podcast. I want somebody from your city. And it sounds odd. The reason I say that is because I want strong opinions. I want somebody to say, I like this, but I don't like that, or this one is really awesome. This one's like so, whatever. I want them to have great opinions because as a traveler, I want to know which place I should really go, and as a convention and visitors bureau, they have to represent the city, right? And they can't pick one over the other. Otherwise, one that you didn't pick is going to be mad at you, right? And so, like I said, it's a little bit of an awkward conversation with them, but they understand once you kind of explain it to them. I go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because they don't want to be put in that position where you say, no, really, what is your favorite? Which one do you like better? And they're like, awkward pause, right? So it's been good being able to reach out to them. And then from a travel blogging side, again, I kind of have different layers with everything I'm doing. Now on the travel blogging side, now that I have that relationship with them, I can say, hey, I'd like to come out and write some articles about the attractions that I'm doing, the different things that are there, the different food, different restaurants and everything else. And because they already know me, because we already have a little bit of a relationship, because I've talked good about their city, now when I go there, I can get some things sponsored as far as attractions or meals or a stay from the travel blogging side. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship that way. And I purposely also don't have 100% overlap in my audiences of my podcast and my blog, because my blog is primarily about miles and points and trip reports and those types of things, which is more of a smaller subset of the travel audience, right? Versus the podcast is more of a general broad audience that's just talking about the city. And occasionally maybe I'll talk briefly for a few seconds about miles and points, but I don't really go into it very much.
Well, Lee, let's get into a time machine right now. You've been going at this for about 3 years. Let's go 3 years in the future. What are your hopes for your podcast?
One, that my numbers are much higher. Honestly, I'm just, part of me is happy with the way it's going, other than the fact that I wish I was making more money, right? A lot of times it's more money out than it is in when you're starting out. And so I want it to be self-sufficient as far as monetarily. I would like for it to generate a lot more revenue. There are some things that I'm working on doing where it creates more of a reason to come to the website. I'm creating one sheets for each episode where it's like, here are like the top tips from each guest. Come to my website and download that. So because unfortunately there's not a lot of demographic information for podcasts right now, whenever you are talking to a sponsor or to a place that's look like the Convention and Visitors Bureau or something like that, or maybe even a top tier guest, they're like, oh, what's your demographics? Like, who's your listener base and everything else? And you can't really provide a lot of information right now. You can talk about your downloads. You can talk about, 80, 90% of my listeners are in the US, and that's about it, right? So there's not a lot you can provide, but by doing more of having them come to the website, Obviously, you get more demographic information that way by them coming there, and you got like a Facebook pixel on your site. Now you can do some targeting for either for that person or people that are like that like audiences. And so it's all about trying to drive as much traffic as possible to the site. So that way you can build your business more and find ways to kind of drive revenue, not necessarily by charging them, but by getting more sponsors, getting better advertisers, creating other opportunities to be able to do that,
Yeah, no, that's actually I like how you're using those one sheets as a kind of lead generation tool for getting that data that sponsors are going to ask you for. That's a really good idea.
And then the other thing is I'm more like, after about 50 episodes, I started doing this because I was listening to another, like you're talking about earlier, kind of plagiarizing ideas and tips from other people. It was a personal finance podcast, and he was talking about like, what's your best personal finance tip at the end? And so after about 50 or 60 episodes, I started asking that, what's your best travel tip? And so what I want to do is I want to create a book of the best travel tips from all my guests as a way to try to generate some revenue that way as well.
Well, Lee, please tell us where people can learn more about you and your awesome travel podcast.
Well, the website is wetravelthere.com. I'm on all the different social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. at We Travel There. And I'm on all the major podcast platforms. So look up the episodes. We Travel There with Lee Huffman, and almost up to 150 episodes right now. And so if you're interested in being a guest, I'd love to have you on, represent your city. Go to wetravelthere.com/guest. And I'd love to talk with you.
The name of the show is We Travel There. Lee, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate all of the advice that you've given and all of the time that you spent having a conversation with me. I wish you the best of luck and continued success.
Thank you so much. And hopefully people learned a lot, and hopefully I'll be able to listen to their episodes sometime soon.
And thanks again to Lee. Check the show notes for links to learn more about him and his podcast, We Travel There. I would love to hear what you got out of this episode. Leave a review on podchaser.com to let me know. The show notes has info for how to do this, and feel free to make suggestions for what I can do to make this show even better for you. And make sure you subscribe and follow Podcast Tactics to learn even more about podcasting in future episodes. Thank you.